345 billion euros. That is what the European Union estimates it will cost to complete the Trans-European high-speed rail network by 2040. And in September 2026, for 4 days in Berlin, the companies competing for that spending will be in one building. InnoTrans 2026, the world's leading trade fair for transport technology, its 30th anniversary edition, fully booked 6 months before it opened. But here is what most people attending InnoTrans miss. The fair is not about what is being exhibited, it is about what is being decided. Poland is selecting its first high-speed rail contractor right now. Rail Baltica has rolling stock tenders live across 3 countries simultaneously. California is at InnoTrans with a $3 billion track and systems contract in market, the first time the United States has ever sent a high-speed rail authority to this fair. In this video, I am going to take you through every major project that will be decided in or shaped by what happens in Berlin this September. I have saved one project for the end, the one where the procurement decision is closest, the competition is fiercest, and almost nobody outside Europe is talking about it. Let's go.
Let me give you context on why this edition of InnoTrans matters more than most. InnoTrans runs every 2 years in Berlin. It is the largest rail trade fair on Earth. In 2024, 2,946 exhibitors from 59 countries, 169,000 visitors from 128 countries. This year, the 15th edition, is already larger. The full 200,000 square meters of exhibition space, including 42 halls, the outdoor track area, and the bus display, sold out more than 6 months before the doors open. But the number that defines this edition is not the exhibitor count. It is the theme the organizers chose for the opening ceremony: mobility on a global scale, shaping projects and growth opportunities. That is not marketing language. That is a statement about the moment the rail industry is in. The European Commission, the European Union Agency for Railways, and Europe's Rail Joint Undertaking are all sharing a single stand, Hall 4.2. The Commissioner for Sustainable Mobility is opening the ceremony. Germany's Federal Minister of Transport is attending. When the politicians show up at InnoTrans at that level, it is because decisions are being made, not debated. 3 structural shifts are driving this. First, ERTMS, the European Rail Traffic Management System, is no longer a future standard. In May 2026, the European Commission proposed legislation to mandate a common digital signaling baseline across all European networks. The firms that can deploy ERTMS at scale are the firms that will win European rail for the next 20 years. Second, AI entering operations. InnoTrans 2026 introduces the AI Mobility Lab, a dedicated exhibition space for AI in maintenance, traffic management, safety, and energy optimization. And the InnoTrans Hackathon, AI on Track, puts developers, startups, and established firms in direct competition for the first time. Third, the internationalization of supply chains. This year, InnoTrans welcomes exhibitors from approximately 60 countries with delegations from 18 nations. Firms from India, Turkey, South Korea, and Latin America are exhibiting alongside the European and Chinese heavyweights. For the first time, the United States has an official high-speed rail exhibitor. This is no longer a European fair that the world watches. It is where global rail strategy gets set.
Now, let me take you through the projects. Project 1, Rail Baltica, $23.8 billion. This is the largest infrastructure project in the history of the 3 Baltic states and one of the largest rail projects currently under procurement anywhere in Europe. 870 kilometers of new standard gauge railway connecting Tallinn in Estonia through Riga and Vilnius to Warsaw, designed for 250 kilometers per hour for passenger trains, fully electrified, equipped with ERTMS Level 2 throughout. Phase 1, the main north-south corridor from Tallinn to the Polish border, has a budget of $15.3 billion and a 2030 target. Phase 2, adding the full double track and connections to Riga Airport and Vilnius, adds another $8.5 billion. What is in active procurement right now? The three Baltic passenger operators, Elron in Estonia, Vivi in Latvia, and LTG Link in Lithuania, have launched a joint tender for up to 20 regional electric trains compatible with the new standard gauge line, capable of 200 kilometers per hour. Separately, procurement has opened for energy subsystem design in Latvia and Lithuania. Civil works contracts are advancing section by section. Signaling, telecommunications, and traction power system tenders are being prepared. 43% of the main line is already ready for construction. Who controls it? RB Baltica AS, the joint infrastructure company of the three Baltic states, co-financed by the European Union through the Connecting Europe facility with the European Commission as co-development partner. The number that matters? Rail Baltica is the first new standard gauge railway in the Baltic states since the Soviet era. When it opens, it ends the rail gauge isolation that has cut these three NATO members off from the European rail network for 80 years. That is not an infrastructure story. That is a security story. Poland, Central Europe's first true high-speed rail network. And it has two separate procurement tracks running simultaneously at InnoTrans. Track 1, Rolling Stock. CPK has established a dedicated rolling stock leasing subsidiary, PortPolska.KDP, with a procurement program valued at more than 2.37 billion euros. Two train categories are being tendered: high-speed trains for the main CPK network and airport express and regional express trains for the feeder services. Independently, PKP Intercity, the national passenger operator, has launched its own tender for 20 train sets capable of 320 kilometers per hour, with an option for 35 more. Manufacturer selection is targeted before the end of 2026. Track 2, Civil Construction. CPK has launched competitive dialogue procurement for the Warsaw-Lüdz high-speed line, the backbone of the planned Y network connecting Warsaw, Lüdz, Poznan, and Wrocław. 2 of 6 sections are already in procurement. 6 consortia are competing for the first section. The line is designed for 350 kilometers per hour, faster than any current European standard, and introduces 25 kilovolt AC traction to Poland's network, replacing the legacy 3 kilovolt DC system. Who controls it? CPK, Centralny Port Komunikacyjny, PKP Intercity for rolling stock, backed by the Polish government and EU structural funds. The number that matters. The Warsaw-Lüdz line is scheduled to open in 2032 alongside Poland's new central airport. That deadline is a political commitment. It will not move. Welcome back to the show. Today we're diving into the intersection of AI and creative expression. Project 3. The Alpine Megatunnels, Brenner Base Tunnel and Lyon Turin. These are the 2 largest rail infrastructure projects currently under construction in Europe, and both will dominate the tunnel construction and infrastructure segments at InnoTrans 2026. The Brenner Base Tunnel, 64 kilometers beneath the Alps between Austria and Italy, target opening 2032. When complete, travel time between Innsbruck and Bolzano drops from 80 minutes to just 25, and crucially, annual freight transit through the Brenner corridor, currently constrained by the mountain gradient, will be able to expand significantly, reducing truck traffic on one of Europe's most congested alpine routes. The Lyon-Turin Base Tunnel, the Mondambine Tunnel, is 57.5 kilometers. When complete, it will be the longest rail tunnel in the world, surpassing the Gotthard Base Tunnel. Target 2033. Paris to Milan in 4.5 hours instead of 7. Milan to Genoa, currently 90 minutes, will be commutable. Both tunnels are magnets for supply chain procurement. Tunnel boring equipment, waterproofing, fire suppression, ventilation, emergency systems, liner segments, and the full suite of railway systems that go into a base tunnel environment. The nearly 600 exhibitors in InnoTrans's tunnel construction and infrastructure segments this year occupy more than 32,000 square meters, a 5% increase on 2024. That growth is not random. It follows the project pipeline. Project 4. ERTMS, the Pan-European Digital Signaling Mandate. In May 2026, the European Commission put 3 legislative proposals on the table that, if passed, will reshape European rail procurement for the next 2 decades. The first, making train tickets available across all online platforms and enabling cross-operator journey combinations with full passenger rights protection. The second and third, which matter most for the supply chain, operational harmonization of digital signaling across European networks. The Commission's position is direct. The current approach of adapting legacy systems to ERTMS is too costly and too slow. The answer is to mandate a common baseline built on ERTMS with harmonized operational rules across all member states. What that means in practice, every national railway infrastructure manager in Europe will need to either upgrade or replace their signaling systems over the next 15 to 20 years. The total addressable market for ERTMS-compatible signaling is in the hundreds of billions of euros. At InnoTrans, the firms positioning for that market, Siemens, Alstom, Thales, Hitachi, and their challengers, will be making the technical and commercial arguments that will shape procurement decisions for years. Project 5, California High-Speed Rail, $3 billion track and systems contract. This is the moment that changes the geometry of InnoTrans. For the first time in the 30-year history of this fair, the United States has sent a high-speed rail authority with its own exhibition stand. The California High-Speed Rail Authority is not in Berlin as a visitor delegation. It is there as a buyer with active procurement running. In November 2025, California issued one of the largest single procurement packages in U.S. infrastructure history, a $3 billion track and systems contract covering rail, ties, overhead contact system poles, and components for the Central Valley section. In June 2026, the authority's board approved issuing a request for qualifications for the Merced to Madera Civil Works Collaborative Design-Build contract, the next major expansion of active construction. Shortlist by the end of 2026, construction from late 2027 through 2030. 171 miles of the system are currently under design and construction. More than 80 miles of guideway are complete. 61 major structures are finished. The signal to the global rail supply chain is unambiguous. California's $100 billion program is not a political promise, it is a construction program, and it is buying European technology. Project 6, Trenitalia, €2 billion Frecciarossa expansion. Trenitalia has announced a €2 billion investment program centered on high-speed rail. The program includes a contract for 36 Frecciarossa 1000 trains at €1.3 billion, with deliveries already underway at approximately 10 trains per year through 2029. A further 9 next-generation Frecciarossa sets have been ordered from Hitachi Rail. The strategic ambition, international expansion. Trenitalia has secured a depot in Paris that will serve as the base for cross-border services, including planned routes through the Channel Tunnel to London. At InnoTrans, this expansion plan will be front and center. The rolling stock decisions that follow, fleet upgrades, cross-border compatibility, maintenance network development, are each a procurement opportunity. Project 7, Portugal's CP, first high-speed rail tender. Portugal's national operator CP has issued its first-ever tender for high-speed trains, 12 sets capable of 300 kilometers per hour, with the first unit required by 2031. That deadline aligns with the opening of the first section of the Porto to Lisbon high-speed line, Portugal's first dedicated high-speed rail infrastructure. For rolling stock manufacturers, Portugal is an open competition. No incumbent technology, clean slate. Let me give you the intelligence layer. 4 things InnoTrans decides that the program agenda does not make explicit. 1. Rolling stock standard setting happens here. When Siemens unveils the Vectron X at InnoTrans, the first locomotive platform built on an open software architecture with standardized data protocols and third-party application support, it is not just a product launch. It is a bid to set the technical standard that procurement authorities will reference in tenders for the next generation of European freight locomotives. Platform models in rail are won at trade fairs, not in factories. The specs that get written into RFPs over the next 18 months will reference what is demonstrated in Berlin this September. 2. ERTMS commercial positioning is decided here. Every major signaling firm, Siemens, Alstom, Thales, Hitachi, will use InnoTrans to establish their ERTMS deployment narrative in front of the infrastructure managers who will be writing tenders for the next decade. The firms that define themselves as ERTMS specialists at InnoTrans 2026 carry that positioning into every European procurement for the next 2 years. 3.
The US market is now genuinely accessible, and InnoTrans is the entry point. California's presence as an exhibitor, not a visitor, signals that U.S. procurement authorities are actively evaluating European technology. For European suppliers that have historically dismissed the U.S. market as inaccessible due to Buy America requirements, the landscape is shifting. California's high-speed rail program has specific European technology procurement pathways that domestic U.S. suppliers cannot fully meet. 4. Night train is emerging as a serious commercial segment. Several exhibitors at InnoTrans 2026 will present new night train concepts, mock-ups, modular sleeping car designs, interoperable platforms for cross-border overnight services. This is not nostalgia. It is a response to a genuine market signal. Night train demand in Europe is growing faster than daytime high speed in several corridors. The firms that present credible night train products at InnoTrans 2026 are positioning for a procurement wave that has not yet fully materialized, but will.
Earlier, I promised you the project where the procurement decision is closest, the competition is fiercest, and almost nobody outside Europe is paying attention. Here it is, Poland. Not Rail Baltica, which everyone knows about, not the Lyon Turin Tunnel, which has been in the news for 30 years. Poland's CPK rolling stock program. PKP Intercity has a manufacturer selection deadline of before the end of 2026. The contract will be signed by the end of 2027. First delivery by 2032. 20 train sets at 320 kilometers per hour minimum, with an option for 35 more. And CPK itself, through Port Polska SA KDP, is launching a parallel tender for the full HSR fleet, with a program value exceeding 2.37 billion euros. The eligible manufacturers are the firms that have delivered at least 5 electric train sets at 250 kilometers per hour or above, approved for operation in the EU, Switzerland, or the UK within the last 7 years. That qualification list is short. Alstom, Siemens, CAF, Stadler, Hitachi, Talgo, possibly one or two others. And Poland has made its preference for Polish industrial partnership explicit. The CPK Management Board stated publicly that working with Polish companies is a priority, and that the competitive dialogue process will be leveraged to build market insight for the remaining open tender procedures. For rolling stock manufacturers attending InnoTrans 2026, the Polish government delegation is the most important conversation in the building, not because the contract is the largest, because it is the closest to decision. And the manufacturers who define their Polish industrial partnership strategy in Berlin this September will have a structural advantage in the tender evaluation that follows.
Here is what to do now. Step 1. If you are attending InnoTrans 2026, restructure your agenda around procurement decisions, not product launches. The project matrix I've just laid out tells you which national delegations matter most for your business in the next 18 months. Build your meeting schedule around those conversations. Step 2. If you are a rolling stock manufacturer or system supplier, the Polish and Portuguese delegations are your highest priority meetings. Both programs are open competitions. Neither has a dominant incumbent. Step 3. Understand the ERTMS positioning game. If your company provides signaling or digital rail systems, the conversations happening at InnoTrans 2026 will directly shape the technical specifications that appear in European tenders through 2028. Be in those rooms. Step 4. Download the InnoTrans 2026 project briefing I've prepared for this video. Subscribe to Rail Compass, comment InnoTrans below, and I'll send it to you directly within 24 hours. Step 5. Subscribe and hit the bell. Next Thursday, I go deep on the project in this video that has the largest single rolling stock decision still to be made. Poland, 2.37 billion euros, and a shortlist of 6 manufacturers. You need to know the full picture before Berlin. InnoTrans 2026, September 22 to 25, Berlin. The decisions made in those 4 days will shape European rail for a decade. I'll see you in the next video.